Hello and welcome to the New York State Archives webinar module series on records scheduling, a family of short presentations providing overviews of topics related to retention and disposition of government records. This module is Office Retention Schedules. My name is Maria McCashion and I will be your presenter. This module will explain what office retention schedules are, how they relate to records retention and disposition, how to create them, and why they can be a valuable tool for managing records. Office retention schedules are created from the formal records retention and disposition schedules that the State Archives develops for local governments and state agencies. Both the local government records schedule and the state agency general schedules have hundreds of pages that list and broadly define records. This is intended to make them useful to a variety of agencies and local governments. However, no single agency or local government creates or maintains all record series listed in either schedule. In addition, state agency-specific schedules for their unique records are developed with a lot of detailed information, all of which may not be needed for routine management of records. Office retention schedules are concise lists of only the records your office or government use. They indicate retention, which is the number one thing people want to know. How long do I need to keep this record? They can be set up to refer to the records by names more commonly known by staff if they don't refer to the records using the records titles in the formal schedules. They can include records from different schedules, for example, local governments with municipal records covered by the LGS-1, court records covered by the Office of Court Administration schedules, and vital records covered by the Department of Health schedules. State agencies might list records from the State Agency General Schedule and agency-specific schedules. Office retention schedules can help implement records management by providing staff with a shorter list of familiar records with just the information they need to know how to manage them. They can also serve as a subject matter list that fulfills the Freedom of Information Law requirement that governments maintain a subject matter list of their records. An office retention schedule should include these basic elements: department or unit or office that uses the records is key information whether the office schedule is for the entire organization or for individual departments. Including this can reinforce responsibility for records within individual departments and make it easier for staff to correctly identify and apply schedules to the records in their offices. It can also shed light on how different offices describe and consider their records. If a schedule is being created for the entire organization, including this field can enable arranging or filtering records by department or unit. For the office retention schedule to work, it must identify the record series. And once you know the record series, you can match it to an item in a schedule to determine the minimum retention period. The retention schedule item number is the unique number assigned by the State Archives to each record series in a local government schedule or a state general or state agency specific schedule. Including this number connects your office schedule to the formal schedule, and it gives you an easy way to refer to the formal schedule if you need to. Developing this basic information for an office schedule should be a coordinated effort, especially if the office schedules are intended to serve multiple departments. This could be done with help from key staff in individual offices or units. And in addition to these elements, they can help determine what other information they'd like or is needed in the schedule. Other information staff might want in a schedule includes information about when records are needed in the office and when they can be moved to storage, if they're records that need to be kept or are permanent. This is based on the needs of individual offices, but it can be a good way to plan regular transfer of records to storage, as well as regular disposition. Having this information in your schedule can make it easier for staff to determine when to move records out of the office to make space for new records. Active and inactive information can be helpful if you need to coordinate moving large amounts of records from one or multiple departments to a separate storage space, maybe a space that's owned by your government or another government, or leased space or storage with a vendor, or for state agencies, storage at the State Records Center. A comment field can be used to document whether the records are the official or the secondary copy. They can document a reason for longer retention, or whether there are multiple formats, such as records existing in paper and electronic formats, use restrictions or information on confidential records, methods of destruction, notes about preservation or weeding, or sign-offs needed, or transfer procedures, among other things. That said, goals for your office schedule should be to create something that you and your coworkers will use. So don't make it more complicated than necessary. This slide is to remind you that electronic records should be included in your office schedule. Electronic records are covered by the same laws and regulations as other formats, so you must apply the same schedule items to them as you would if the records were in paper. Your office retention schedule should indicate whether the electronic or the paper version is the official copy if you maintain two formats. The decision's up to you. The formal state archive schedules apply to one official copy of record. Office retention schedules can help manage electronic records by reminding staff that they exist. Electronic records can become invisible on our computers, and they may exist in multiple copies in various locations, such as on individual computers or in different places on the network and on backup media. So without a reminder, staff may not dispose of these records. So office schedules can help ensure that electronic records are purged, help you save digital storage space, and it can prevent your government from having to deal with a mess of electronic records. To reinforce the benefit of creating office retention schedules, these are screenshots showing pages from the local government records schedule, the LGS-1, and the general schedule for state agency records. These pages list various records related to purchasing, and both provide a lot of detail on individual record series. Once you've identified your record series, found its matching retention schedule item and retention period, this may be all the information that you need. With an office schedule, the other details can remain in the formal schedule. And if you need to refer to these details, you'll be able to do so easily because your office schedule will include the matching item number. And like the examples on this slide for purchasing records, your office schedule can be created with just the information needed to manage your records. And the result will be a short list of straightforward information about your records that will be easier to use than the formal schedules to manage those records. Office schedules can be set up in a variety of ways. They could be a list or a table in Word, a database or a spreadsheet. And ideally, creating and maintaining one online will make it easier to update and share. A database or a spreadsheet may be more flexible to update than a Word table, but it may require some time to design it or there may be a cost involved to purchase the software. Whatever electronic format you choose, keep in mind that it will be necessary to regularly back it up and take steps to maintain it long term. The State Archives has an Access database that you can use for your office retention schedule. And if you'd like a copy, you can contact us at the email address at the end of this module. A case file retention sheet is a subset of an office retention schedule. It's a guide specifically created for case files that contain records with different retention periods. For example, personnel, student, investigation, or project files. A case file retention sheet lists the records in the files and their retention periods. And this can provide guidance to staff as to what records should be in the case file and how long they need to be kept. I'll show you an example of a case file retention sheet in a moment. This is an example of an office schedule created by the Department of Environmental Conservation for their employee relations records. It was created in a database that tracks records of their many departments. The database enables sorting records by department to create schedules for individual offices. This office schedule includes the department information in the header. It has fields for the schedule item. And in this case, there are also links to further information in RDAs, or Records Disposition Authorizations, that the State Archives provides for state agency-specific records. There are fields for a description of the record, the event that closes a particular file, and how long the file must be kept after it closes, and how it should be destroyed if it's not permanent. This is an example of an office retention schedule created for a local government tax assessor's records. It's a word table with the basic elements, record series, schedule number, and minimum retention. And it also has fields for how long records are kept in the office, when they're moved to storage, and how long they're stored before destruction if they're not permanent. And this is an example of a case file retention sheet, which I mentioned is a subset of an office retention schedule. This example was created for local government personnel files, and it lists types of records found in a personnel file, their retention period, and matching schedule number. In this example, some records have short retention periods, like 1 or 6 years. Many need to be kept for 6 years after the person leaves the organization, and one must be kept longer. So you could read the 1 to 6 year records as needed, or you could keep everything in the file and start the 6-year retention period when the person leaves the organization, and then use the case file retention sheet to weed everything but the longer term record. Once created, office retention schedules should be distributed to any office or staff using the records included on it. This can be an effective way to educate and remind staff about what records they work with and the records retention and disposition needs. It can also be a good way to delegate records management responsibilities, like preparing records for storage and labeling the box with accurate information. Even staff who aren't assigned files management or disposition duties should be given a copy so that they're aware of requirements for records retention. Making office retention schedules part of official policy can be an effective form of gentle persuasion for staff. It can demonstrate the importance of records retention in your organization, and it can be a quick way to explain why a record can't be provided upon request because it's been destroyed legally following an adopted schedule. Discussing office schedules during staff orientation can be a good way to introduce them to new staff and to make staff aware of their records management obligations before they begin handling the organization's records. The use of an office schedule can make records retention and disposition easy to understand and carry out. To promote the creation and use of office schedules, you can have staff help develop them. Staff in individual departments know their records, they know how they're used, and they can help determine when the records are no longer needed. You can also discuss with them the information that they'd like on the schedule. And if they take part in creating an office schedule, they may have a personal interest in using it. You could also set up a formal disposition day each year or following your government's fiscal year and announce the day with a friendly reminder for staff to clean out their files. Or better yet, work with management to set aside time for staff to appropriately dispose of and or relocate records to storage. You can also remind them of the benefits. Office schedules can help them create room by getting rid of unnecessary paperwork. They can make it easy to decide what to keep, transfer, or discard. They're shorter and easier to use than the formal state archive schedules. If you've got to get tough, you can tell them it's not a personal decision, but part of policy. In summary, an office retention schedule can be a valuable records management tool. It can help you control records with regular disposition of records in any format. It can give records management a formal place in your government by putting focus on the needs of just the records of your office or organization. It can eliminate questions by staff who aren't familiar with or don't understand how to use the formal schedules. An office schedule is a handy reminder to answer that question, how long do I need to keep this record? It can also ensure that records are kept for as long as they're legally required. They can be used to document changes to the formal schedule, such as the need for a longer retention. They can encourage disposition so that staff don't keep records longer than necessary. They can identify permanent records that will need protection and preservation. And in the case of state agencies, they can be a reminder to staff that certain records must be transferred to the state archives. And they can make your work easier by giving you a good sense of the records that you have, how long you need to keep them, and which ones you can destroy regularly. And knowing this will help you keep things organized and help your office run smoothly and efficiently. Thank you for viewing this webinar. Please check out our other retention and scheduling modules in this series and other records management webinars on the State Archives website. And if you have any questions about office retention schedules or anything else related to managing your records, you can contact us at recmgmt@nysed.gov.